Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast with me, Kimberly Brown. Today we have our final Your Next Move career and leadership development question Q&A. So I've been answering all of your questions here in season 3, and this is our final episode. So if you want to hear your question answered in season 4, please email podcast@manifestyourself.com. And with that, let's get into it.
Okay, first question. What do you recommend to a professional who's starting to feel burned out and wants to take a break?
Okay, so despite all that craziness you just heard, burnout is real. I know that some people may not believe in burnout, but burnout is a very personal feeling. There's no true definition. Everyone could be burned out at a different point because everyone's capacity for stress is very different. So if you feel like you are on the verge of burnout, so you are tired, you are exhausted, you are getting overwhelmed at work, you have a lot of anxiety, you feel like you aren't able to necessarily function in the way that you functioned in the past, that may be a sign of burnout. And you have a lot of options you could take. For some people, taking a brief vacation, taking a week off is all they need to refresh. Other people feel like they need to look into other options like behavioral health leave for a month or more extended time. I always recommend therapy. Always, 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 whether or not you are experiencing burnout. You can potentially call your EAP program or employee assistance program and get connected with a therapist or a counselor. You can look at resources on your own to find someone to speak with. But if you feel like you are burning out or have already burnt out, I encourage you to pause in whatever way that looks like for you.
How do you deal with someone lying about you during a performance appraisal process?
Okay, so let's not give a petty answer. So when you look at your performance appraisal and you know that the information that was put on your performance appraisal is not factual, one, you are totally validated in feeling upset and angry. I encourage you not to go and curse anybody out or tell them how you really feel about them. But please know that you are completely valid in all of the feelings that you may be experiencing at that time. 2, this is documented already. So we're talking about performance appraisal where this was written, put in on your record in the workplace. Generally, there is a place for you to provide commentary. I strongly encourage you to formally also document your commentary there about what is actually factual about your experience. And last but not least, you may or may not want to address this with this person. What happened in that situation or in that altercation or in that communication mishap? What happened that made that comment get there? Was the person literally out to get you? Did they not know or didn't have enough information to be informed properly? So they're writing from their experience, or is it something else? So if you're comfortable, I do recommend addressing that commentary to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But at the bare minimum, if you do not do anything else, ask to write in and add your own commentary explaining that situation so it is on the record of what actually happened in that situation.
How do you turn down a position that's offered to you that you don't want?
Ooh, well, congratulations, first of all, for getting a job offer, because that in itself is something to celebrate. But if you don't want the job, and I think the same thing goes for internal roles versus external, be completely honest. And not honest in necessarily why you don't want the job if you don't feel it's a great fit or you don't like the manager. Sometimes too much detail isn't needed. But graciously share as soon as you know that you're not interested in accepting the job offer, but you love to keep in touch potentially about future opportunities. Having grace in this process is so important. I could share so many stories about how the world is way too small and the recruiter you speak to or the manager you speak to may be a manager in another role that you see 3, 4, 5 years later, and they may remember this experience and how you handled it. So I encourage you to be gracious and be honest and share as soon as you know. No one likes to be strung along when you know you're not going to take a role. Now, if you are potentially in between 2 roles, so let's say you're at 2 different companies that you've applied for and you're getting both offers at the same time, or you're waiting and there's, let's say, a little bit of cat and mouse where you want to get one offer and the other so you can compare them, I completely understand. I'm not saying for you to let go of this offer and you haven't gotten this one yet to confirm. I'm saying just make sure if you get the offers, as soon as you know that you're going to go with this company instead of this one, let this company know so that no one's kind of hanging in the balance, and just be gracious in that process. Still send your thank you notes and continue, say you're interested in continuing to keep in touch if you are about future opportunities.
That's good advice. How do you get your company to pay for your conferences and certifications?
Great question. So fun fact about me is that I've ended up paying for largely most of my personal and professional development up until 2016, when I had a role where they were open to paying for personal and professional development. But if you're looking to get reimbursement, one of the things I recommend is writing a letter to your boss, speaking about the opportunity. Sometimes just going up and saying, hey, can you cover my National Sales Network conference? They're like, well, why do you want to go to National Sales Network? What is happening there? What are you going to learn? What are you going to bring back? Make sure you talk about, not only do I want to go to National Sales Network just because I feel like I want to network with other sales professionals, but I'm interested in learning at this conference session, this conference session, and this conference session. I feel that these 3 sessions will allow me to do X, Y, and Z once I return from the conference. Now, writing a letter is always helpful. You could also put this in an email. But I'd also love for you to better understand your company's professional development policies. Sometimes there may already be a fund where it's as simple as contacting human resources and they go through the process, or sometimes you have to talk to your boss and get approval. If you talk to your boss to get approval, I definitely recommend that you send over that email talking about the experience and why it's important for you to attend and what you'll be bringing back to the office. Depending upon what type of professional development it is, I also recommend better understanding, are you going to be on the hook for staying at your company for engaging in this experience? For some professional development experiences, let's say it's more of a certification and not a conference, a company may say if they're paying that you have to stay for 12 months after that event. So just be aware that for conferences, generally, that's not the case. But if you're doing something a little bit deeper, it's a conference with a certification process, something that's going to qualify you. They generally like for it to be directly correlated to your job. And there may be some stipulations about what you can do after that conference, because if the company invested in you, they may want to retain that knowledge, retain that talent a little bit longer. So you, of course, have the certification, you have the experience, but the company may want you to use it in-house before they want you to resign and go elsewhere.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on leaving a job that's destroyed your mental health without having a backup plan?
So generally, I do not recommend leaving a job unless you have another job lined up. However, one of the caveats is your mental health. If you feel like your mental health is suffering, if you are experiencing burnout, if you can no longer function inside and outside of work, then it may be time for you to go. However, of course, you have to, only you can know, is it at that point where it's appropriate for you to leave, or not even appropriate, where you need to leave? And will you be able to survive financially if you no longer have that paycheck coming in? If you know you won't be able to survive financially, or you'd like to have a backup, I highly recommend looking at your family, looking at your company's leave policy. They may have medical, behavioral, personal leave, FMLA. There may be some type of leave that you're able to take that will allow you to be paid, even if it's at a percentage of your general pay, to allow you to take care of yourself and then come back to the workplace, or take care of yourself and also look for a job in the interim and leave when you have something lined up. While I completely understand that it may be a really tough time, but I also would hate for you to be in a situation where you can no longer financially sustain, and that's going to cause even more stress after already leaving a stressful workplace. I also encourage you to listen to our episode of Are You Overwhelmed or Overcapacity? Because sometimes the environment can be toxic, bad managers, bad company culture. Sometimes you could be experiencing burnout because of your workload. And sometimes we just need a plan of attack that will help, in addition to taking some time. And again, only you will know how much time you need. Maybe you need 2 weeks off for vacation. Maybe you need 2 months off. So only you can determine what is going to work best for you in that scenario.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And that is the last question.
Yay. So with that, this is the last career Q&A for season 3 of the Your Next Move podcast. Again, thank you so much for putting your questions in. And if you have questions for season 4, I invite you to email podcast@manifestyourself.com. May your next move be your very best move. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to the Your Next Move podcast. Don't forget to share this episode with a colleague or friend so we can all level up together. If you enjoyed today's episode, please write a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And lastly, if you're looking to join a community of thriving professionals, I invite you to join the Next Move Best Move community, my private community of professionals that includes the Manifest Yourself signature leadership development courses, monthly lunch and learns, and more. For more information, please go to kimberlybeonline.com/community. Until next week, remember to make your next move your very best move.